gonna last. I don't know.
Oh, is
How do
on
I?
air.
Right. How do I turn you down a bit? You're a bit loud in my ears. Settings.
It's just on your settings,
Yeah.
or it should be on your computer, not the
Okay.
Google.
Okay. Let's do that. Okay.
First thing I wanted to bring up is, so I'm curious about how everybody became interested in this kind of thing. And I mean, I know for me, I at a young age I was really interested in the medieval and things like that. I thought it was so cool, and so I used to read books on it and do reports on it whenever I could. You know, in school that would be my choice. And and then when I got older, I was led through a spirit guide meditation, basically the first guided meditation I'd ever experienced in my life. So I didn't know what I would get, you know, and so the energy that I met appeared to be a woman in medieval clothing in the castle in a tower, and so that right there has really stuck with me, and it's come up again and again and again and again. And now I know a little bit more about what that was, but yeah, I'm curious about how you guys have become interested in things like Avalon and this whole theme.
Um, I guess yes. I mean, the legends of Arthur and Avalon and stuff. I think the stories struck a chord.
Hmm.
Now I forget which book I read about Merlin and Morgan, which I was transfixed by the story.
Oh, is it the Mists of Avalon? That's probably the most popular one.
I can't remember. I was very young, and it was one of those books I just consumed,
Hmm.
and because I was such a bookworm, I just moved on to the next thing. But I was profoundly affected by that story. Um, and then I do love pre-Raphaelite art,
Hmm.
and of course, you know, the Avalon and Arthurian stuff does feature quite
Right.
prominently. Um, in that art. What else? I guess to a degree, every little glimpse of druidic tradition and pagan tradition and Celtic tradition I have just loved. I just guess it just always chimed with me every time I've come across with it. Um, and there's something in my nature which is very much siding with the underdog, and
Hmm.
the suppression of pagan and druidic culture, um, and of native Britons in general,
Right.
um, always just made me kind of almost knee-jerk or automatically react by wanting to find out more about them, and you know.
Well, right, because you are in that area. So have you been to any of these sacred sites
I
yourself?
have. I've been to Glastonbury a few times. I've been to
Oh, wow.
Stonehenge. I've been to Avebury. Although strange, well, I've only been once to the tour, and that was when I was about 18.
Hmm.
And although I've been to Glastonbury since, I've not been to the tour since, and I've not done proper spiritual tourism, as it were.
Right.
Um, but certainly reading this book is gonna, you know, because I've always been. Oh, that's the other thing that's attracted me to this whole sphere is uh, you know, ley lines and all the sort of
Absolutely.
sacred geometry of the earth, and anything I read about that stuff, it keeps coming back to Glastonbury, keeps coming back to Glastonbury about. and that's certainly, immensely fascinating for me. There's something, I don't know if I'm beginning to realize that I'm quite influenced by magnetism in general. So any area that is known for its magnetism, I'm drawn to kind of automatically. So it's nothing concrete. It's always been quite a bitty sort of general. It feels like many threads keep bringing me back to Glastonbury. Yeah, and any time I'm around that part of the country in the UK, it is gorgeous. It is wonderful. It's a beautiful feeling to be around there. Yeah. So yeah, that would be my answer to your question, Rosa.
Lovely. And what about you, Donna? Where did this begin for you?
Yeah, I'm older, so basically, in the late '60s, early '70s, it was crazy. I read all about King Arthur and everything about Avalon, like by age 9. Always very interested in it. The Irish, the Celtic, the Druids, always fascinated me. I mean, I'd spend all my money on books and just reading them, and that was, the mythic was what I loved. So
yeah,
just always felt something there, a connection, and it keeps coming back up my whole life.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, this does kind of link us from Magdalene, because that was our last book. We read about Magdalene, and we know that she and Sarah went to the Glastonbury area, and although it seems like little is known about what actually happened there, I like to think that they went through, at least Sarah maybe went through some sort of a priestess initiation and learned there. I haven't read a lot about that, so I'm not sure what people have speculated, but I really like how we branched off from that.
When we recently read about that struck a chord. That was the real aha. Like, oh, I hadn't associated Mary Magdalene and Sarah and that side of that family with that area. And when I did, it was like,
it really clicks.
Yes, something. Yeah, something went click inside for sure. Yeah.
So that's why I really think I think this resonates as the book to read right off of the heels of that. I really like the way the directions this is going. So starting out, what really stood out to you in the beginning, in the intro, and did anything jump out at you?
Well, for me, maybe it's because I'm a stickler for facts and things. It feels necessary to me to separate a little bit what's truly known from everything else. And what is truly known is very little, as it turns out.
Yes.
However, that said, and this might seem like a dichotomy, how could I have that attitude and then at the same time believe in the accumulation of collective thought to the degree that what we end up with is a thought form, and that becomes fact. That becomes a place.
Yes.
Like Avalon exists, be concretely, in inverted commas, because of the sheer volume of thought and reverence of the collective. And as Donna has just brought into focus for us, something that was very much part of a wave of like, I don't want to say a fad, but there was a certain fascination with it in the 60s, as you say, Donna, and where there was this whole resurgence of interest in all of this, as there was in Victorian times, as there was in
Very cyclical, yeah.
yeah, and in fact there have been, it seems, many cycles of re-emergence. So so I do believe that consistent thought over the years will give rise to actual thought forms. And that is the case with Avalon and all the protagonists within Avalon.
Right.
So I'm prepared, much as I love to look at history and examine evidence and categorize it for its reliability and so on, in order to assess, sort the wheat from the chaff, and actually establish who said what when and what led to which belief, and all of that stuff. I'm also really looking forward to taking on this book in a spiritual manner, and look at the process described, and all the symbolism of the importance of the number 5 and how it relates to the apple and all that. I find that really gorgeous. I find that really, really very interesting.
The apple part, that is so interesting to me. I mean, everything about it.
Right. I read about that part, long ago, and other religions too. The other thing to think about is that the number 5, and then in the center is the core. 5 goes to the throat chakra, and then joins in with the third eye and the crown. So that's the other thing too, is it's like from everywhere, from every region of the planet, it all, whether it's Buddhism.
Can you go in?
Catholic.
Can you elaborate, Donna? Can you elaborate a bit more about how 5 relates to the throat, the third eye, and the crown? What you just said there.
Well, we have 7 main chakras, but
yes,
to get to the higher ones, you have to have the first 5.
Yeah.
And so, like the seeds of the apple go like this, like the picture shows, in a circle like this around it, and then there's a middle, and so that's
a core
joined with the higher ones, or your higher self.
Yeah. And I love the way the apple is a very beautiful and pristine torus. I mean, you could maybe posit that all of nature is basically torus driven, but there's nothing quite like the apple for a beautiful visual representation of the torus.
The sand dollar too.
Sorry?
The sand dollar, it's round and it has the same kind of things. And then I don't remember if it's 5 or 7. They almost look like some kind of little doves or something inside of them when you dry them out, actually.
Oh, that's true. I have a few. I'll have to look at that again. I didn't even think about that. I really like
them as a child. We'd go out at
me too. I loved them.
On the Cape, and I was always looking for them. So yeah, and the symbols on it and everything are the same too. So it's really interesting.
What also stood out to me, I really liked how they talked about the colors of the apple, the red representing the mother, the white was the maiden, the black is the crone.
Wow.
I love tying in the whole maiden, mother,
And you
crone.
know what that flashed up for me? Snow White.
Yeah, yep, I wrote Snow White under that because her,
Yeah,
you know,
Snow
her
White, and
lips
of
are
course
red, her
she,
skin is white.
yeah, and of
Why?
course the apple features prominently in that story. Yeah,
We see the apple come up in so many myths
yeah, yeah.
and fairy tales.
And one day I'll tell you my Snow White story, but you know, because Snow White was
And
has
it's
has
the
had a
seven dwarfs too, which
Oh,
is
yep, the seven.
chakras.
Mhm.
You know, it is kind of funny because throughout all of mankind, these things just repeat and repeat in different myths and stories.
Well, you know what it is? Part of it is I mean, here's a theory anyways. I've heard that some of these things had to be hidden in these fairy tales in order to spread the word about them, and it also just goes into your subconscious too. So it's a more
absolutely.
way of doing it that they had to do back then. I won't get into the whole, you know, religious
Yeah,
aspect of hiding the truth, but that's part of it. Yeah, I have been. I can't, you know, as energy therapist, I'm always relating things to the chakras, and these really resonate. They even correlate them in the book. You know, they say
hmm
this is the throat or this is the. But
yeah,
I had wanted to go over what each seed represented as far as like approaching
yes.
Avalon. I love that part. I made so many notes about, you know, seed one
And
is
about the,
calling the barge, and you know
yes,
it's really a step-by-step process about going within. And I just absolutely love the idea that parting the mists and going to the shores of Avalon is basically going into your own consciousness. I really like
yes.
they laid
Yeah,
that out.
just, you know, I read through that part so slow and just again because I
Yeah.
did guided meditations with my friend from England that goes to all those sites and, you know, re-clears the chakras and the ley lines there at all the churches along the stops. And
hmm
like this, I don't know if you can see it.
It's a little blurry, I'm not sure.
It's a heart. It's purple. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah. Up a bit. Yeah.
And
Nice.
Wow.
so, yeah, I got that from her for a gift. And then I got this. And it's water from that red
Spring.
there. So, you know, because she's done pilgrims all over in the last couple of years. But when we did the guided meditations with her, we did the same thing. We did earth, fire, water, air, and then other world. And it's, which was interesting. There would be anywhere between 4 or 5 of us in the group to 7 or 8. And some of them fell asleep every single time we did the group meditations. But me, and one other of the woman, it's like before she would say things about the guided meditation, I'd see them in my mind. And like I had tons and tons of visions coming up and everything during the guided meditation. So, you know, like I said, it's just really felt familiar to me my whole life, I guess, you know.
Interesting.
I've had that experience at one time where I was listening to a guided, it was actually a past life regression CD, and I realized that I was seeing some of these things kind of a step before he would say, okay, now visualize this, and I'm like, I already did. Oh my
Yeah.
God. It was pretty cool. It's pretty interesting.
Because you know that there has to be, you know, a higher link of all our consciences, and that you and them tag the same stream, you know, the same forking kind of
Right.
information from different spirits, you know.
Okay, so let's see. So, okay, like I said, seed one was calling the barge. So what does that really mean to you guys about calling it, putting out that intention for it to come to you?
Um, well, I guess, well, for me, up until now, all my spiritual practice has involved calling for manifestation, really. Not all of it, but a lot of it,
Right.
And and just now and again, I would call for manifestation of spiritual advancement. So I guess I would be, so for me, I make a bit of a distinction, not on purpose, but I make a bit of a distinction between calling for manifestation of material things and kind of circumstantial kind of environmental stuff, and calling for
Right.
manifestation of
Spiritual.
any sort of spiritual clearing processes, or calling for manifestation of the removal of my obstructions to flight, to use the term from the previous book we've been reading. So for me, at this particular time, beginning to read this book, and this ties in with something that's written just a little bit further on from page 11, is that in calling for the barge, I'm calling for integration of my conscious and subconscious, and I'm calling for I have a wish to integrate, basically. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
What about you? What's calling for the barge for you?
Yeah, for me, it really it is setting out that intention. It's going, all right, I'm ready. I'm going to get on the ride. I'm ready to get on the ride. And that's so important to say, okay, here I am. I'm present, to be present, to be mindful of what you're doing and just preparing yourself. And it can be, I don't want to say a treacherous thing. It could be a bit of a scary thing sometimes to do this. There's just a level of fear sometimes, I think, to just dive right in. And even just the whole barge and parting the mists, it's kind of a little bit fear of the unknown, So, yeah, I feel like the woman who's standing on that shore calling it is very, is really channeling that strong energy.
Is brave, yes. Although my experience with calling the barge in ways that were maybe not as conscious as this would be, is that it always, the mists only part the everything. I mean, apart from one instance where I didn't know what was happening and I hadn't a clue what was going on, and it was just slightly a bit on the aggressive side. Generally speaking, all my evolution has been at a pace that has been suitable. Like, I don't know. I have a faith. I have a faith in the process being ultimately pleasurable. Actually, now it's interesting that I think something's clicked and that fear is gone. I don't. Yeah, I'm not fearful of calling the barge. I know that there's always work involved.
Right.
I know that there's with any spiritual process, in order to step up into joy, there's always obstruction, and a lot of it is very uncomfortable. Yeah, of course it is, because otherwise it wouldn't be there in the first place. Because essentially, when you've got obstruction to your own integration, it's because you're holding on to the shadow.
Absolutely.
Effectively, you're holding on to that shadow, and what's motivating you to hold on to that shadow is fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But what I'm finding is that I'm growing in faith, I'm growing in trust, in such that letting go process, that assimilation of those shadows, is less and less painful and less dramatic, because I know that effectively it's all emotion and none of it kills you.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way of looking at it. It's not going to kill you.
None of it kills you. That's what it
fear.
feels like, and it is effectively, it is all ego death as well.
Right, and relating this to, because then they go into other 5 elements. And before we get to Donna's take on this first seed, we should mention that the first seed is also considered the station of descent. So this is where you're descending. You're turning within. You're looking at your shadows. This is when you start to understand your shadows. So yeah, what are your thoughts, Donna, on that first step, I guess?
Yeah, it just took me forever to just get through that part because I had so much visions coming at me. It's really kind of crazy. 2 weeks ago, someone I grew up with passed away of cancer. I also went to school with his wife. I put up a thing saying Jackson Browne is playing up in Hampton Beach, up near my friend Rosie's house. She lives up there. So a lot of times we'll go stay the night, and we'll go to a concert, and we can stay at her house on the beach. So it's great fun. Anyway, Mel said she wanted to come. So I said, yeah, cool. So Mel lives, a couple towns away from me, so we could have traveled up. Then he said she wants to bring this other girl, Lisa, that we grew up with. Well, I never disliked Lisa, but I didn't know her well. When we were, I think, 9, my mother and I were at one of my mother's friend's house, so I was friends with all her daughters. We were going over to Lisa's mom's house because it was Lisa's birthday, and some of my friends were friends with Lisa, but I'd never been in class with her, so I knew her like to say hi, and what she looked like, but not know her. Anyway, I went there, and her mother and her older sister decided that her older sister was like 18, and she was married, so she had her own apartment or whatever with her husband. So she invited us all to go over and have a birthday party for Lisa. And we got there, and her sister ordered a bunch of pizzas, and Lisa started really giving her a hard time. Like what she was doing wasn't enough, getting soda, chips, ice cream, pizzas, all this stuff. You have 6 friends overnight. Her sister paid for it all, and Lisa wanted more, and she was really like being vicious to me, to her older sister. And I just said something like, Lisa, that's not nice. You should appreciate what your sister did. Well, Lisa instantly got mad and turned on me and said, well, I didn't even invite you here. I don't want you here. Then her sister and our mutual friends started saying, Lisa, stop it. You're not being nice to Donna. And I said, no, it's okay. I tried to go home, and her sister's husband had drank too much, so I couldn't get a ride home. My dad worked nights, so he was gone with the car already to his job, so I couldn't go home. So, and it's weird, over all these years, we're 54 years old. If I'm anywhere with her, I'm in a church, one of our mutual friends see me, come sit with me. Oh, Lisa's over there. I'm going to go get... She won't come sit next to me. I've been like I've been in doctor offices, and she like waited on Mark, and it's like she's handing him papers and not even, no eye contact. No, she won't look at me. So anyway, Mel invited Lisa to go up. And then I'm going to be in a car with them for a 2.5-hour ride. And then the whole concert, then overnight, and the next day, I'm like, I don't know. And I'm like, why is this coming up? And I'm like, I didn't see anything at that time that I could or would have done different. I've always kind of been like, maybe a little too outspoken if I see someone hurting somebody else in that. So I really thought, like, this got to be coming back up for something. And then there's these other people that I worked with, and, like, they broke laws about how you treat clients with disabilities and stuff. And I didn't like working with them. I'm very uncomfortable with them. Jimmy's band, the guy I'm dating, is suddenly, his band is playing with the other band. So last weekend, I actually went out and they were all there again, and I haven't seen them. And they like really seem uncomfortable with me there or whatever, and I'm like, I don't care, you know. But it is really related to this in that it's showing, like, I didn't know what went on between her and her sister for their relationship in their life. I should have shut up. I did try to apologize. She wouldn't accept my apology. And then she would never look at me, never mind not talk to me again, our whole lives. So I've been very surprised she's willing to go to this concert.
Right.
So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to try to be as quiet as I can. But it just made me think that I really, well, my own defense, I was a little child, obviously, too. And I didn't think I said anything in a mean way to hurt her feelings. I just said, you know, you should be thankful your sister's doing this. But I don't have any sisters. I only have brothers. So I saw it as something, oh, so cool. You got an older sister and she's doing things for you. I mean, my brothers, they cut the hair off my dolls and colored them with markers and stuff, you know. They certainly didn't share in anything with me.
Right.
You know, except if it was worms in your pockets or something. Crayfish, you know. But, yeah, so, but how do I know what happened between her and her sister? But, I mean, still, she never really gave me a chance either. But we weren't ever in any classes, all through junior high school, never. Elementary, which is really weird, was a pretty small town, you know. There was maybe like, I don't know, 110 kids my age, you know. But that's the way it was. So, yeah, it kind of really made me go, like, deep, you know. With a lot of thoughts when I was reading through that, so.
Yeah, I think that's part of why it's taking some of us, she froze. I think that's why it's taking some of us longer to read for that very reason. You read a sentence, and it takes you back to an experience, and then you're just sitting there going, oh, you know, really making those connections. And, oh, she's back.
Yeah, my home broadband dropped. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. I think at this point we're on to the second area,
Okay.
you know, parting of the
mist, isn't it now?
Mm-hmm. So this is when you're on the barge, you're going through that self-discovery, and you're here's the part that's very interesting to me. It places a lot of importance on naming. Naming the vital element is the root of our illusion. So I thought, you know, I really like the idea that naming something helps us set it free, helps us almost, like if we name fears, we kind of disempower them a little bit because we're taking over our power.
Yes, you're owning it.
Which, you know, this is a station of confrontation. So this is where you're kind of like, hey, I see you, shadow. I see you, fear. I'm going to call you out.
Yeah, and also, you know, when something's dark and misty and you can't see it,
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself is frightening because, you know, better the devil you know, as the expression goes. Naming it is part of making it visible.
Mm-hmm. It's really
So,
dragging the shadows into the light when we do this. And I read something. Oh, reclaiming our energy. I really like that idea. That concept of reclaiming it. It's so empowering.
hmm as a youngster, I was I'm certainly by my mother in particular kind of brought up on naming things too much,
Mm-hmm.
and like it's as if it was considered by some people around me that I had an excessive reliance on the process of naming things, and that and people with a little much more wisdom than I, when I was still very young, would say, yes, but that's only one step, the naming. You know, there's so much further ahead before any kind of mastery. You know, that yes, naming is very important, but there's a reason why it's seed two in the process. You know, it's not. It's the beginning. It's the beginning. It feels good. It's necessary, but naming is the beginning.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
But it does feel like freedom. Sure, we set ourselves free and lift the veil of the shadow so that our journey to wholeness may continue. Yeah.
Well, you said, okay, so if naming is one of those first steps, so what do you think about the next step here, like retrieving the sword? So you've named it, you've named your what have you, your fear, your shadows, your issues. So then you go on to wait, what is the station? What is the third station called?
Retrieving the sword.
Oh, okay, and that's the Station of Emergence. Okay.
Now, are you on page 12 or are you further on at this point? Because there are two. Because you just mentioned stations. Because there's the seeds and then there are the stations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm linking the two. I have my notes.
You're linking the two. Okay.
Yeah. As we're going through the seeds, I'm going ahead and just like linking the station so that we could keep it in our heads. So yeah, so that is the Station of Emergence. So planting the seeds, you know.
So in fact, hold on. Are we on seed 3 at this? Yes, we're on seed 3. Okay. Station of Emergence. I like the way that sorry, just to flip back to the previous station, that business about reclaiming the energies that have been tied up in generating the negative patterns that are the outgrowth of our unconscious pain. That's vital along any spiritual path, and if we draw kind of parallels to all the different esoteric traditions that three of us have looked at over the years, that keeps coming up again and again and again about how our subconscious pain and our shadows generate patterns.
Absolutely.
And how it's one of the very first few baby steps along a spiritual path to identify those patterns and then set the intention to undo them. So that would be stations 1 and 2 and seeds 1 and 2.
Right.
Yeah, so the Station of Emergence.
And this is actually a beautiful, seed 3 is so beautiful to me, thinking of the Lady of the Lake holding that sword of truth, you know, like you're approaching the Lady of the Lake and you're ready to take that sword.
Yes. And I like also this idea of right action. We are empowered to establish inner queendom and step into a place of personal sovereignty illuminated by the light of right action. That will be my solar plexus chakra speaking. It appeals to me. Yeah. So okay. So what does this Station of Emergence feel like to you two? Any observations about that?
I guess for me, I see it as like a redirection. You know, that even talks about redirecting your energies when they're freed from the shadow. So it's like a conscious effort to say, okay, where can these energies better serve me? They're obviously not serving me in the dark anymore. I don't need to hold on to that. So yeah, I like how they talked about redirecting, because I think that's, again, pretty empowering to say I'm redirecting it. It sounds like such an active move. This is kind of the stage of action, I feel like, taking that action.
Yeah, something I latched onto with the Station of Emergence is that it says here, at emergence, we work on mapping the path we need to walk in order to unlock the potential of our inner gifts, to manifest our life's goals and long-standing dreams, and to live from a center that is clear and connected to Goddess. Now, the interesting thing is that I've had it so drummed into me from coming along this kind of the philosophy of manifestation, which is that you don't map that path, right? You set the intention, and then what you need to do is let the universe show you the path. You don't map a path.
Right.
So it's quite interesting to see this written here. So I wonder if that's going to be developed further as we explore the stations in greater detail later on in the book.
Right.
See, my impulse is to always map things out in great detail, and I don't know how much that is about a fear relating to the need for control, or whether it's just the way I'm wired. I like to imagine things in detail. See, or and because I've also had to kind of relinquish my grasp on that kind of thinking. You know, the excessive like mapping,
right,
control, because I've discovered that it's kind of limiting. That the universe prefers to do that for you, really. So,
right, like not getting caught into the little details of it. You're kind of saying, I like to think of it as sometimes you don't know how it's going to happen. You don't have to know every last step, but you just have to trust that it will. But I feel like that stage about the sword and everything, I feel like this is a really masculine, affirmative energy, being like, all right, take it, that, you know, map it out, plan it out. It feels very masculine to me. And
I agree.
I don't know if you guys have gotten to the part where it links these stages to the chakras, but this would be the throat, actually. So,
yes, it would.
Just self, the mental. See, this is more the mental, of course. Like, all right, what am I going to do? The air, new perspectives, clear communication, authentic self. So that I really like how they link it all together. I love that kind of stuff. The elements, the chakras, the conscious self. Yeah.
Okay.
So that takes us to the fourth stage.
Yeah.
So now we've
Station of Resolution.
Yeah, reaching the shores of Avalon. Okay. This is more of a fire element, the heart chakra, the higher self.
Yes. It's amazing how, for me, I have an association, just the words reaching the shore. For me, evokes coming home, which is very hard for me.
It felt very good to read that. And it also talks about rejoicing. Let yourself rejoice for your accomplishments, you know, your triumphs. I think We focus so much on the shadow stuff, and then we think about it like, hey, I blasted that shadow.
Yeah.
I need to celebrate this.
Yeah. And for me, because I've always suffered from a horrible sense of underachievement in life, this really struck a chord with me, because I'm like, gosh, I need to do that a bit more. So, in fact, these days I deliberately try and show people my art and try and talk about my achievements and share my experience along the spiritual path with people as well, with more of an appreciation for my own, for what I've achieved. Yeah.
Yeah, bringing it to fruition, as the book puts it, it's pretty interesting to observe that, to rejoice in those triumphs and honor yourself. And then the last step is the integration, of course. So that's the third eye. That's the inner divine, the goddess, and really taking all the seeds, taking everything we learned so far and putting it together. So this is the center. This is the center. It's between all stations, but it's also connected to all stations. So it is seeing the big picture, because when you're in the center, and this is what I like to talk to people a lot about, balancing. When you're in the center, you get to see all sides. You see the big picture. You're not polarized.
Yes.
And of course, that's about inner balance, and you could like go on and on about that. But I really like how they wrapped it up like that.
And to go back to just the previous paragraph, the last line, the last sentence of the Station of Resolution, this chimes with me. We have learned that our inner sight is sharpened when piercing through the illusions we hold about ourselves, and that by daring to see ourselves in a new light, we change the world by changing ourselves. You see,
I wrote that one down too. Yeah.
Making the link between seeing oneself clearly and the power to manifest.
Right.
Which is very throat and third eye, of course.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
So, where does that bring us?
And then Station of Integration, so insights, lessons, changes.
Well, I like how the challenge here is, and this is something that gets brought up a lot for me, how can we live consciously in the material world while embracing the truth of our divine nature? I think a lot of us treat I don't want to say us, I have seen people in the spiritual community treat the material world as if it's garbage, but we're in it, we have to respect where we're at and just balance out our divine and our material, because we are material. So that's kind of my take on that.
Yeah, I never understood that approach, I must say. It's like we are here. I don't know how you don't want to be here. I mean, sure, there are aspects about being here that suck, but it's also the being here now is the fount of the greatest joy as well. And people seem to really forget that and gloss over it and say, oh yes, be here now, and they haven't integrated that meaning at all.
Right.
I apologize for my snacking, but it's late here, and nothing has gone according to plan today. Absolutely nothing. So I'm having, I mean, I'm not complaining, because talking about the material world, I mean, the reason why nothing's gone according to plan is because I went out shopping for brown rice, dental floss, and my third mission was to return a dress that didn't fit. Okay, I came home with a blazer, a pair of trainers, a bag of vegetables, and what else? A book for making a recipe book for cookies, and
Oh.
and some tea towels.
Wow.
So yeah, that's so not me. It really is so not me. I'm so controlled with my purchases. You've no idea. So anyway,
well, part of what I mean that really urges you to go with the flow, and it's funny because right now, not to get all astrological on you guys, but the sun is in Pisces, so that's a really watery. You know what? We just have to go with the flow. Don't resist the current. Yep.
I'm not good at the flow stuff. I get anxious.
Well, are you Capricorn?
Yes.
Okay, well there you go. That's a really
I want to plan everything.
You're Earth. Yeah, you're Earth and foundation, and the water's like, oh no.
Yeah. What sign are you, darling? Are you Gemini?
No, I'm Libra.
You're Libra.
Oh, that makes sense to me. Yay.
But I love water. I love the lake. I love the ocean. I love me and water are besties. I don't know. I love the earth. Like when people talk about, I don't want to come back here. I want this to be my last time, and I'm like,
yeah, I don't identify with
choice.
that.
Look at the beauty or focus on what's wrong. I don't want to focus on what's wrong. I love it here. I think I'm grateful.
That's what I was going to say. Grateful. I'm extremely grateful to be in this experience. I think, I think that's important. So what I thought was interesting. Speaking of we talked about the ley lines a little bit earlier.
Yes.
I've done a lot of studying about these, and I don't know if I forgot this, but I'm glad it came back into my awareness. But about how apparently the Michael and Mary ley lines crisscross at the Tor.
Yes.
And that is so fascinating.
Yes.
To me. And the fact that Michael could be considered Merlin, Mary could be considered Morgan.
Yes.
Red and white, it really all comes together as above, so below, male and female. So I thought that was actually pretty.
Yeah. And because I'm all about the balance of masculine and feminine and the harmony within the two. Just to go on about astrology, I've got Mars and Venus in opposition in my chart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so for me, there's definitely something I'm working out about how masculine and feminine harmonize.
Right.
So
that's interesting.
Yes. So to have the masculine and feminine, two masculine and feminine ley lines converging in Glastonbury and on the tour, and to be reading about it.
That must really resonate.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. It's vital to me. Yeah.
Do you know what signs those planets are in, off the top of your head?
Mars is in Leo.
Ooh, fiery.
And I think my Venus is in Capricorn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the Leo Capricorn axis, so that would make sense if they're opposite. Yeah, I'll have to think about that one some more. That's interesting.
If you can shed some light on that, Marisa, I would continue to love you forever.
Continue. Yeah, I love looking. No, I haven't. But I would love to take a peek at both of your charts to see. I like to do that for people I interact with a lot, especially because then I could get to see how these aspects play out in real life. I like to
What
be
about your
casting.
Mars and Venus, Marisa?
Oh, my Venus is conjunct my Sun in Gemini. So that's part of why I'm seeing that play out. I mean, look at where I am. I like to run groups. I like to be involved with people, you know, so that I see that there. Mars is in Scorpio, so that's a bit of an intense one.
Ooh, yes.
So yeah, I'm still filling out that energy and seeing how it works for me. And luckily, I don't know how much you guys know about the planets, but luckily it's in Saturn. So I feel like it helps.
Sorry, you kind of crackled there. Your
Oh,
what's in Saturn?
Mars is conjunct Saturn in Scorpio
Okay.
for me. So it kind of harnesses that energy a little bit. It could be a little too stern with it, but I'm really finding that balance of how to use it, you know, how to use that power. Because
Yes.
there's a lot of power there that's untapped. I'll just put it that way. So I'm just learning that. But yeah, not to get too far off the rails here.
Yes. Yes.
We could talk astrology in the chat. And so I'm nearing the place where I actually left off. I left off around like I think 37. So we're up to the cauldron now, which I really like the idea of the cauldron being the womb and the feminine. I never really thought of it being womb-like.
Sorry, you've skipped page 19, which is you know, you've got this 5 seeds correspondence chart.
Oh yeah, the chart, yes.
Is that worthy of a little bit of mention?
I mean, we went over some of it with the steps, and the elements, but there's the goddesses. We didn't really mention the goddesses.
I just like the way, yeah, the goddesses is gonna take some studying because I don't know anything about these goddesses.
I don't know anything about those particular ones.
But I like the relation of the elements, descent water, confrontation earth, emergence air, resolution fire, and integration spirit. I think that speaks to me.
That makes sense to me. That really makes sense.
Yeah.
In the way they go one step further is with the myths of it. So, you know, the descent was, I don't know if you guys read the myth of Telyndru, but it talks about this journey about, you know, the part going into the water, I think was the otter and the...
Yes.
And then the confrontation. I'm trying to think of the confrontation.
That's one heck of a story about Ceridon, isn't it?
It really was. Trying to find the story because I'm trying to remember the different animals. There's a place where
was it the salmon?
The salmon, and the otter was chasing the salmon. I think is that how?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm looking. This starts on page 23. It's on. So,
oh, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. So Grion sets off running as a hare. Then she pursues him in the form of a greyhound.
That's the earth.
Then he jumps into the lake and turns into a salmon. Then she pursues as an otter. Then they start flying. He's a wren and she's a hawk. And then finally she catches him when he turns himself into a grain of wheat. And she pecks at him and devours him as a hungry black hen. Yeah.
And then the cycle, you know, then she's pregnant, you know, and it feels like the cycle comes back around. But I love how they incorporate all the elements like that. It really paints a picture. I like the storytelling aspect is really what helps you understand it so much.
Yes, it does. It's amazing, and it's amazing. I can feel myself absorbing it into my subconscious.
Yeah.
And it's
the salmon again. In the newborn baby.
Yes. And Moses' story. I wrote down Moses because we see these things a lot.
Yeah. It seems to be a universal metaphor, that one. you know, throwing a baby adrift down the water on a little raft.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens in the Nile. I'm sure I've come across it in multiple places.
Jesus in the Bible. Lots of places. Yeah.
All sorts. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you still there? Yeah. Marisa, you still there? Yeah.
Cauldron. The cauldron. Okay,
Yes.
so, and then again we go to oh yeah, we kind of already talked about that, the 5 cauldron transformations, where it's like hare and greyhound is the earth, you know, salmon and otter's the water. So we kind of already linked those to the cycles and the stations. The cauldron.
So now are we on to the path to wisdom. Page 24.
Oh yeah, that's the Ceridwen myth.
Yes. So Ceridwen is a divine healer.
Yeah, I like how they reiterate that, you know, each character represents an aspect of the self.
Yes.
Each action is a metaphor, so that really makes you go, oh, okay, what aspect is this of myself? What aspect is that? What does that represent? When did that happen in my life, or hasn't happened?
And to go back to what you were saying earlier, Marisa, about how the descent is never easy. It demands great courage of us. And I guess like I was saying earlier, I've just eroded that fear by, you know, continually finding so many fruits, you know, on the other side.
Right.
that it makes it worth it.
The reward, like it talks about, yeah.
Yeah, and it's discomfort rather than abject misery, you know.
Right. There's definitely a difference. It's just a necessary thing. It's almost like growing pains. I like to call them growing pains sometimes, because it really helps balance out the negativity, the negative words. What did I write down here? Oh, in fact, talking about that, it says the Celtic Triad, the 3 foundations of learning are seeing much, studying much, and suffering much.
Yes.
So it kind of lays it out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like to. I can see why, of course. I'm so. I have such a reverence and respect for the written word, and what that does to the collective psyche, that I don't like to declare suffering to be part
of the same way
of a process, you know.
Well, even in Donna knows this. Even in Healing Circle, I try not to say, you know, this person is suffering from cancer. This person is suffering from anxiety. I usually say they're experiencing it or something like that. I don't like to think about the whole suffering from. And no, I don't resonate with that word very much either.
I mean, because when we go back to naming, I mean, the thing about naming is that, you know, it kind of, you have to be so careful, because by naming something, you know, you are initiating a process, you know, so, you know, it's vital how you word things, really, really vital. You know, as so many NLP based modalities teach us, you know.
Right.
But hey, the thing about myths and legends is that they are based on such a massive body of universal experience that I guess the reason why they're passed down is because they continue to be true, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Otherwise, if it no longer resonates, it's no longer passed down. So, I guess that's why a triad like that would still be reaching us, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting about how, you know, it says metaphorically, the radiant brow of Telyndru demonstrates enlightenment through cycle work. So remember how he births him, and it talks about his radiant brow. That could be seen of as reaching that third eye of going through all the cycles and really emulating the product of she birthed this, you know, the product of doing all the work. That's how I kind of see him, which is very, very interesting.
And for me, the fact of there was something that was written about cycles which really deeply resonated with me. I'm looking forward to finding out what this phrase means, whether the author is going to expand on this statement that she makes. Each station represents a corpus of energetic correspondences. That relates to the cycles.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that fascinating. I'm really hoping that is going to be expanded on, because I'm all about identifying cycles, and I love the cyclical aspect of this process. And later on, it talks a little bit about how when you come, how the first go on this merry-go-round cycle is different to the second and third and fourth time, and so on.
Right, that resonated with me a lot. The fact that you can do this again and again. We do it again and again. It's not like a one shot. We're constantly, each time you've learned something new, and it becomes maybe a little smooth sailing each time.
And what really ignited a spark in me when I was reading that was that it just so happens, coincidence, not, that I'm just about to embark on another cycle myself now, and I'm casting around for guidance because it's an awful cycle. I mean, it tends to be very painful. It's a 2-year cycle, and it begins with moving into a home, which is precisely what I'm gearing up to do now.
Oh, right. I remember reading about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's funny because I just moved too.
Yeah. It's interesting. So I'm determined that this time, this cycle, I'm gonna crack something. Well, I cracked something last time. Of course, I crack something each time, you know. But I've actually said to my sister, I've said to her, sweetie, you've got to come and visit me, and you've got to help me not fall into this well that I have been doing again and again and again all my life. Because this cycle represents the first 2 years of my life, I've begun to realize. And it was passed down to me by my mother because the same thing effectively happened to her. Well, she perpetuated it. What she did with me was very, very similar to what her mother did with her. So.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So I'm going to. Yeah, so I think I'll be applying this process as it emerges in this book with particular attention on what that means for cycles, and how that applies literally to my cycle.
Well, that's the best way to see how it applies. That sometimes we read books and it's like, oh, that theory's nice, but we don't really apply it to ourselves. I think now we're ready for that action. We're ready to examine.
Or you can't see it too. That's like what I said about my meeting up with this girl suddenly and these other people, and that I never really had a problem with it. I just figured if she don't like me, that's her right. Everybody don't have to like me or give me a chance or whatever. So it never really bothered me. And yet I have to admit, to go somewhere and to be with somebody who is going to like not look at me maybe is kind of weird feeling. It really has been making me this week look at things that I could have maybe done differently, where I didn't intentionally hurt anyone. That was never my intention, but it's become obvious in my face that I did. And so to look at me for the whys, what didn't I see there that I should have seen, I think.
Yeah. That is part of cracking a cycle. And I think vital to the process in order to overcome a cycle is to feel what you didn't want to feel first time around, second time around, because it's all about feeling, isn't it? We keep recreating the experience until we integrate the original trauma, the original feeling.
Well, in some ways, right. I think I didn't have any boundaries at all at that time. So when she reattacked me, I gave up my own rights. I gave up my own power. I said, fine, I'll leave. It's okay. Instead of, identifying, right? I did a little as best I could. I was 9, say, that I was sorry and whatever, but I probably didn't use, the right words to express myself, that it did hurt my feelings too. And that the thing is, it's her birthday, so why wouldn't I have just said, fine, have your way. Whether you're being nice to me or not, I'll just back away from it.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what else you'd do, but still, I don't know. Seeing it's here right now, I guess it's just for me to keep looking till I see some other aspects.
Yeah.
But
cycles are so complex, aren't they? Goodness.
That somehow I gave my power away. To her.
I guess how you would undo that, Donna, is by assisting her in reclaiming her power in the situation.
Right, letting her say, well, I never got along with my sister, or whatever the case is, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just that she was spoiled rotten, which kind of seemed to me. I mean, they had a maid and everything in their house. When she ate dinner every night, she basically put in her order to eat. They didn't just her mother make this for everybody. But still, that's kind of gossipy of what I heard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The thing is, your original impulse
was to protect her older sister.
Yes. But hold on, there's an exchange of power here. Because you said you gave your power away to her. You kind of you annulled your own power in order to, you know, kind of yield,
Right.
right? But in order to do that, in order for that to be necessary, it's because there's been an infringement of your boundary by her.
Right.
And what was her intrinsic motivation to do that in the first place?
Because I think at her mother's
Lack of her own power.
she didn't want to say that she didn't want me there, that she only wanted her close friends there. So she let me get there and then found a reason to be mean to me. And that's what I think is really the root of it, that it was her birthday. She wanted her birthday the way she wanted. If she had said it at her mom's house, my mother was still there. I could have went home with my mom. I didn't really know her. I was very surprised to be invited. I didn't expect to be. And I kept saying, are you sure, are you sure? So then she went along with it, and then she was really deeply vicious to me. So much so that her best friends from very young were saying, Lisa, don't talk to her like that. That's awful. And, you know, like backing away, shocked and just, I think, like everybody felt hurt by what she was doing.
Yeah, and you can see how originally, basically, the problem was her disempowerment.
Right, because she didn't say, I don't want Donna there. I don't know her well.
Yes, but also all that wanting more, all that this is not enough.
But that wasn't really my business. I mean, I was not.
No, but you see, the whole episode, the whole thing originates from her lack of power.
And really putting her having you there, that was kind of her, I see, trying to have some kind of control over things. So it's like, okay, she's at my party. I have her here. And that goes along with the power struggle too, I think. Is trying to have some kind of control. Since you're in her atmosphere, she has more control.
Yeah, because for me, something flashed up when you said I gave away my power to her. Because in order for that to occur in the first place, is because she was disempowered. She required that of you in order to, in a misguided attempt.
Because I realized she felt hurt, whether I meant it or not. She still did. So I still, what you would call, bow to the other person and give them their way, right? Whether they were right or not, you realize that they are hurt, and you're not, so you say, okay.
Okay. So how does that relate to the pattern today? Because it's very recently that you
I think I did it a lot in relationships, especially with men. And I really have healed it like in the last 3 years and that. But that there's probably still some there that I'm giving up what I want and the way I see things. Which, like with Jimmy, I mean, when I saw him last week, he was talking about that if I didn't live with my sons, he'd have probably asked me to move in with him by now, and I told him I wouldn't have, even if he had asked. But he said he didn't ask because he saw that I was here with my sons and I was going to do this with my sons, help them get closer jobs, have their life more together before I would live with a man. And I said, I don't feel I know you well enough, or that my life would be the way I want it to be. I don't see it happening. You know, I'm not trying to be mean. I enjoy being with you. I'm learning a lot. You're very different than other people I've ever been around, which is enjoyable. I admire him, but that doesn't mean that it's a lifelong relationship where I'd live with the person either.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which is nice that he was okay with me saying that, because then he's joking like, are you saying you don't like me? And I'm like, no, I really do, but we don't date very often. Sometimes it's once a month.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's not enough interaction to ever feel like a close bond.
No, it's not. That's not an intimate relationship once a
Right.
month.
But it's because I'm driving for my sons, and then his
Right.
work hours, and when he practices with the band or he's playing, we're like different directions really a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a ton of space you're giving to each other, you know?
And unfortunately, I have to confess that I only read up to page 28.
I know, I was at, I think, 36. Well, when you dropped out, we were talking about, I think this is before you came back in, how it does bring up a lot of experiences. So when you read, even if you read one sentence, you sit there and go, oh, then you zone out for 10 minutes. So
Yes.
I think we need to try to be, gentle with it and respect the process and not be too obsessed with the page number we get to, because it'll unfold the way it's meant to. I don't feel like we're in any kind of a rush. We could just take
not
it.
particularly. And I think also, even a book you're reading, you get into the flow of it as well.
Yeah,
And,
that takes some time.
And then suddenly it consumes you, and you're compelled to read, right?
It's getting on that ride, like I said. You're like, all right, I'm ready, strapped in, let's go. Glitched again. I don't know if it's on my end or hers. Oh no, I see you moving.
Blacked out for a second too.
I see you moving, but she's frozen.
Yeah, it just must have all the way around done it, I guess. I couldn't hear you. I couldn't see any.
Uh-oh. She's probably going to drop out and come back in. Well, around the part where I ended, I wrote down this would kind of be a good closing thing. Women of Avalon are the bearers of the Grail and the daughters of Saradwin. As such, we are spiritual midwives, birthing ourselves and attending the births of each other into the sovereignty of womanhood. And I really liked that idea of being a spiritual midwife. I came across that phrase like months ago. I remember we talked about it in my group. And I really liked the idea that we're all kind of serving as spiritual midwives for each other. That really resonated with me. So I'm glad to read it here because that's something that's been a theme. I hate to end this before she comes back in. I'll let her come back in and give some closing thoughts. I'd hate to us drop out and she comes back and no one's here.
Yeah, I don't know. She did come back in for a second, but then she popped back out again. I hope she can get back on before we close.
Oh, she said stand again.
Did you listen to the newest Matt Kahn? Some of the stuff he's talking was kind of about this too. It was a long one too, an hour and a half or an hour and 20 minutes.
You'll have to link that in the chat. I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, maybe after I go pick up David, because I really gotta head out of here soon, and go get my son.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't know if she's able to come back in. We could just probably end it and tell her that we closed it. But yeah, I'm glad you guys were able to come in. There have been a couple people watching, so I'm grateful for that. That's cool. I hope you're getting something out of it too. And we'll figure out when to meet again. I think we're trying to aim for the first of each month, or the first Saturday or Sunday of each month, which seems to work out. So yeah, thanks for coming in and chatting and bringing your own experiences and making it personal. I like the personal stories. I love hearing those.
Yeah, well, I
Alright.
think it helps each other too, you know.
It does. Oh, there she is. We were just about to close out. We weren't sure if you were coming back.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, where have those 2 hours gone?
Right? Oh my goodness.
It's
It
amazing.
flew.
Um,
Did you have any kind of closing thoughts about this?
No, but I tell you what, the thing is, we'd need another 2 hours probably to talk about this, but it's completely unrelated. But what about Teal Tribe?
The dramas going on?
Oh my God, I was deeply affected by that stuff. I surprised myself. Well, I didn't at the same time. I realized that basically I had projected my parents onto Teal and Sarah.
Oh, right. I remember you mentioned that.
Yeah, and then the energy of that blog post. Oh my God, it just took me back.
So for you, it was more of a personal, deeply personal.
It was, but also as one of the admins of the UK Teal Tribe Facebook page, I had some kind of necessity to act, you know. And so I was up till 4:30 a.m. You know, trying to keep abreast of things, and yeah, and sorry, it's not related to the book at all, but I just
Why don't I go ahead and stop the broadcast and then we can continue?
yeah,
That's good.
Yeah,
Thanks for watching, guys.